This city ruled the ancient world. Kings bowed here. Empires rose here. And 4,000 years later, one man tried to write his name into its bricks.
He's a protector of the great Iraq and the era of the flourishing flourishing Iraq and its civilizations.
This is Babylon. And this is Saddam Hussein's palace.
All right, good morning, everyone. We are in the ancient civilization of Babylon. I'm here today again with Osama and Ali, and today I'm going to give you a tour of what the ancient history here has. And we have some local experts who are going to walk us through some very interesting tidbits and facts about this place. So stay tuned. We have a lot of history coming your way.
Getting to Babylon doesn't feel like entering a ruin. It feels like crossing layers of time. Every empire wanted Babylon, not for its land, but for what it represented: power. This wasn't just a city. Babylon invented how power looks. The Ishtar Gate wasn't built to welcome people. It was built to intimidate them. Before Rome, before London, before Washington, D.C., Babylon decided how civilizations announce dominance. Every step here was designed. Power doesn't rush you. It disorients you. Even the animals carved into stone weren't decoration.
The ball actually represents, the god Marduk, how he became, the main god. It was like a fight and war between Marduk and Nianmat. So Tiamat actually was like, it was a goddess of chaos, the chaos goddess. So actually after he defeated, Nianmat, and he took Nianmat and created the heavens and earth. Then he became, the main god afterwards.
I see.
So whenever Nebuchadnezzar, any king, definitely he will never become a king until he gets blessed, by Marduk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm standing in a place most of us only know from history textbooks. But this is Babylon. Not a myth, not a legend. This is a real city, over 4,000 years old, and I'm walking right through it. Babylon wasn't just important. It was the most advanced city on Earth at its peak. Around 200,000 people lived here at a time when most of the world was still figuring out basic survival. This city had organized streets, palaces, courtyards, defensive walls, and even urban planning. This was the Dubai of the ancient world. What blows my mind even more is that only about 10% of Babylon has been excavated. That means 90% of the city is still underground, untouched. Entire palaces, streets, artifacts, stories, still buried. Now here's something insane. The streets of Babylon were built using natural asphalt, thousands of years before modern roads. This black material you see between the bricks, that's not cement. That's natural asphalt taken straight from the ground. This right here is the Processional Street. Parts of it are still original. Kings walked here. Armies marched here. History happened on this exact ground. Babylon is also where writing began. This is cuneiform, one of the earliest forms of written language known to humanity. You're literally looking at the moment humans first decided to record ideas permanently.
They are gates actually, the similar the blue one that we saw in the main gate.
Yeah.
It's actually another Ishtar gates.
Okay.
But actually it's not glazed that you see right now because actually it was taken away.
Right.
Yeah. They say, according to the clay tablets, the cuneiform that's found, on the clay tablets, they found they think, because they were just trying to describe, the god at it, he was so angry most of the time.
Yeah.
When it became, so sandstorm and when they are suffering from the dryness and everything, it means, he's angry. So we need to do some ritual. But at the same time, they believe he's so fair. He was so fair. Angry, but so fair sometimes.
Yeah. This is beautiful. This is a UNESCO heritage site, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes when they used to hear, the thunder sounds, like in the sky, oh, the god Adad is angry at us. So we need to do some rituals.
Okay.
Line actually knew that the British and the Germans actually couldn't take it because it's too heavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the Lion of Babylon.
The Lion of Babylon, and underneath it, it was a human, tried to defend himself. But the lion always, like according to Babylonians, represents, the power.
Mm-hmm.
The domination. So it represents, the always, Babylonian actually they were super strong. They will attack and get over their victim or not victim of their enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So who's ever tried to invade or to think about invading Babylon, he will be like this underneath the lion. So it was found, in the 1770s, during, the Ottomans. Yeah. And so I'm saying, we were discussing, Ali and I, about the sayings, dates back to the Ottomans.
Right.
And people say, yeah, actually it was like found, just coincidentally, by the farmers here.
Mm-hmm.
And they had it over, like, they told, the government, the Ottomans government at the time, about it. So they think, a lot of saying, oh, the Ottomans actually, they broke, the nose of the lion.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the lion, it represents Iraqis or the Babylonians, that they're strong. So,
Right.
So they were jealous, the Ottomans.
So breaking the nose was symbolic.
It's too heavy, that's why, British and Germans, couldn't carry it.
Yeah.
So they kept it.
And that in the background is Saddam Hussein's palace?
Yeah, it is. And I still actually do some excavations right now here, but they think, it used to be a castle, like in the northern castle of Babylonia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a castle.
Yeah, it definitely looks like, these bricks look like, this.
It's original, actually. It's not renovated.
Yeah.
It's not anything. They did nothing to it.
But I'm sure there's a lot more excavation to be done to pull it out. So these inscriptions are by Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein, Rais Jamhuriyat al-Iraq. He's the president of the Republic of Iraq.
He's a protector of the great Iraq and the era of the flourishing and its flourishing Iraq and its civilizations.
He rebuilt it, for rebuilding, the Babylonian era, the Babylonian city, like in 1980.
You rebuild it, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Alexander the Great, Iskandar in this part of the world. One of the most powerful men in history. He entered Babylon in 331 BC, and this room is believed to be where he died, the throne room.
This is where it is that they think, the historians, the archaeologists think that Alexander the Great was like killed or poisoned here in this throne gate. But no one knows, no one is certain, no one's sure, whether he's died here or died in Egypt. They think, because they have Scandaria, like in Egypt. They think, Iskandar the Great was killed in there.
Yeah.
But also, historians, they don't know. They say, like he wasn't killed in there. He didn't die in Egypt. So he died in Babylon.
He was poisoned, right?
He was poisoned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, So they think, he died in here. But it's not certain.
And this is the throne room.
Yeah. Throne hall.
This is the Babylonian maze.
You want to go? Go for it.
What looks chaotic here was actually intentional. Babylon's maze of narrow passages and zigzag corridors wasn't poor planning. It was strategic genius. These twists and turns were designed to confuse intruders, slow them down, and make it almost impossible to navigate without insider knowledge. Even the city's architecture was a form of defense. Babylon didn't just rely on walls, it relied on intelligence.
Hello, so we have a couple of New Yorkers here. Your names?
I'm Didi. Chloe.
Chloe and Didi, and they are visiting Iraq,
Yes.
like very few people in the U.S. do. So what is your plan like? You're out for 4 or 5 months, you said?
Yeah, we're just traveling for about 4 or 5 months.
Okay, and where are you visiting?
Iraq, India, China, Thailand, maybe Russia.
Wow.
We're not sure yet. We're just gonna go where the wind takes us.
Awesome. And you've just started.
Yeah.
Okay,
Second
awesome.
day.
Oh, wow. So wait, I think we left at the same time then. When did you leave the U.S.?
We got very delayed. I don't know if you've seen all the fog here.
Yes.
But we were
It was
delayed a
left
couple
on
days.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I left Sunday too.
Yeah.
But I left from Newark though.
We were visiting friends in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
We got delayed. Our flights got cancelled. A lot happened.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad to see you here and have a safe rest of your trip.
What makes this emotional for me is this. Babylon is one of the most important places in human history. Yet, there are no hotels nearby, almost no foreign tourists, very little funding. If this were anywhere else in the world, this would be a global pilgrimage site. Standing here, touching stones that are thousands of years old, I don't feel danger. I feel awe, I feel humility. I feel sadness knowing how much of shared human story is still beneath our feet. Babylon isn't just Iraq's history, it is humanity's history. And being here, it's something I'll never forget. Saddam Hussein didn't just rule Iraq. He wanted to inherit Babylon. He rebuilt parts of this ancient city and stamped his name onto bricks, once touched by kings. Babylon survived because no one owned it. Saddam failed because he tried to. This palace cost millions, and Saddam stayed here for 3 hours. While people struggled for basic necessities, this stood empty, waiting for admiration. Babylon doesn't need defending. It has outlived every ego placed on it. Empires fall. Dictators vanish. But ideas survive. History doesn't remember who owned the palace. It remembers who built the world.
Inside Saddam Hussein's palace in Babylon.
Saddam Hussein's palace.
Uh-huh.
This is actually where the throne is.
Oh, wow.
Here. And look at it. Come here, listen. They can just close this cracker.
Oh, yes.
Look at this. If you look up on the rock top,
Ooh.
do you know what's the meaning of this painting? Starting from Sumerian era until Babylonians and the Assyrians and then Abbasid Caliphate era and ended up to the Saddam Hussein's tower.
Wow.
It represents all the history of Mesopotamia. It's lovely.
And Saddam is
We're like sitting here.
Power that needs this much validation is already collapsing.
He built this palace just only to stay in this palace only for 40 hours. Doesn't make sense. And the Iraqi people at the time were starving to death. Look at the view of the Euphrates River.
Ooh, look at that.
How much trees are in everywhere. Look, it's so beautiful. Like, so Habibi, Patrick, welcome to Mesopotamia.
Thank you so much. This is Babylon, and this is what remains. If this video challenged what you thought you knew, stay with me. There's more history ahead. If you like the content on this channel, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out.